After a short pause following the assassination of Yemen's Prime Minister and his cabinet, the Yemeni armed forces have come roaring back, unleashing what they call Doomsday Strikes on the criminal regime of Benjamin Netanyahu. Their drones and missiles didn't just shake military compounds, they went straight for Mossad hideouts and Israeli intelligence cells spread across the occupied territories. And while Israeli propaganda outlets are desperately trying to smother the story, the Yemeni spokesman himself, Yahya Sarea, has gone on camera to confirm exactly what's happening. His message was clear: these operations will continue for as long as it takes to defend the defenseless in Palestine. And believe me, there's a twist in that video message that shook even me. I'll share it in a moment, but first, do me a favor, hit the like button right now so this video doesn't get buried by the algorithm. And if you're new here, subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Drop a comment on the implication of the new Yemeni situation. Before we roll the Yemeni spokesman's words, let's quickly turn to Gaza, where doctors are once again crying out in despair. This isn't politics, it's raw human tragedy. A young doctor, visibly broken, is pleading for nothing more than baby formula, clean water, and medical supplies.
I served in Nasser Hospital in Gaza from June 26th to July 10th. Formula does not exist in Gaza. Even if you're a millionaire, you can't find formula. And if you were to find some formula, it is being sold at $105 per pop. This same formula can be sold elsewhere for $10. $105. And these are people who have nothing. They are living in tents. They have no electricity. Babies that have been born since October of 2023 don't know what light looks like. If they pass by a hospital where there is still some electricity at night and they see a light, they are amazed. People are dying from things that they should not be dying from. A lot of it has to do with the lack of sanitation that they have, their inability to provide water. If patients are diabetic over there and they want to take their diabetic medications, their blood sugar drops, they die from it. The worst part about it is that in 1 minute, this can be completely changed. It's just an order to lift the siege, to allow medical equipment in, to allow nutrition in, and all of these patients would have much better outcomes. But unfortunately, because there's an act of genocide going on and there's an attempt at ethnic cleansing and displacing these people, there's no relief coming in. And there's not going to be any relief coming in unless we speak up.
That's it. That's what Yemen says it is fighting for, the bare minimum of human dignity being denied by Israel's siege. And when you look at that heartbreak in Gaza and then see why Yemen keeps striking Israel despite all odds, you can only understand the frustration that fuels their determination. Now listen to the spokesman's words.
القوة الصاروخية في القوات المسلحة اليمنية عملية عسكرية نوعية استهدفت مطار اللد في منطقة يافا المحتلة، وذلك بصاروخ باليستي فرط صوتي نوع فلسطين 2، وقد حققت العملية هدفها بنجاح بفضل الله، وتسببت في هروع الملايين من قطعان الصهاينة الغاصبين إلى الملاجئ.
Do you see what I mean? The lines are now clearly drawn. At the start, Yemen's strikes were limited to purely military targets, but the occupiers of Palestine, the terrorist state, showed the world once again that they recognize no law, no morality. They murdered an entire civilian government in Yemen, wiping out a prime minister and his cabinet in one sweep. Just pause and think about it. Imagine if it had been the other way around. If Yemen had struck down Netanyahu and his cabinet, the so-called civilized West would have erupted in outrage, screaming about terrorism. But when Israel does it, the silence is deafening. And when you listen to independent voices like Professor Marandi, you realize how ridiculous Netanyahu sounds. His pride is nothing more than the arrogance of a criminal who hasn't yet been dragged to The Hague.
Going back to Ansarullah, what they're doing is heroic, and what they've done for the Palestinian people is quite extraordinary. And it's very interesting, Danny. Ansarullah was demonized so much in the Arabic media. The Qataris, the Saudis, all of them during the Dirty War. Of course, Qatar, when they got into fight, they shifted, not out of principle, but because the Saudis and the Emiratis turned against them, then they shifted their policies. And then Turkey also distanced itself with Turkey under Erdogan, not out of any principle, but because of their evolving relationship with Saudi Arabia. So also the people across the Arab world many were skeptical of Ansarullah. They had negative views of them because of the it's sort of like Western media. The Arabic media was all hostile. Yet it was these people who defended the people of Gaza. In fact, I would even go a bit further, but I want to say this very carefully because I don't want anyone to misunderstand. Even some people in Palestine were influenced by anti-Ansarullah, anti-Hezbollah, anti-Iranian narratives. And the Persian media in the West that is funded by Western intelligence agencies, and they may have shut down NED and USAID, but the money is coming from somewhere. It continues to flow. There's been no shortage of money. They always talk about these things, that the Palestinians hate the Iranians, they hate the Shia, they hate, they despise the Persians. And although all of this is exaggerated, but Iranians hear this, and people in Yemen hear this, but that has never dissuaded them from supporting the Palestinian people. And so today, Ansarullah, despite all the hostility and the demonization, they are the heroes, not just of the Arab world. You see people across the world now speaking about the Houthis or Ansarullah, and Hezbollah and Iran, to the great credit of these people, although they've been hearing all the time how everyone hates them and so on, but they continue to support the Palestinian people, even though they hear things in the Persian media about how Iran is hated, which is, as I said, exaggerated. But to their enormous credit, they see right through the propaganda, and they don't take any these Salafi, Wahhabi, Takfiri, this sort of slander that these people spread and sometimes influence the.
No wonder Netanyahu and his cronies are trembling. Reports say Shin Bet has taken special and unusual measures to keep him, Defense Minister Katz, and the rest of that corrupt gang alive. Israeli media, which I prefer to call Israel media, is trying to spin the story, but the fear in Tel Aviv is undeniable. They even moved their weekly cabinet meeting into a secret bunker, though Netanyahu still went on TV puffing his chest like nothing's wrong. He claimed Yemen's vow to destroy Israel would never be fulfilled, while boasting that Israel had eliminated most of the Yemeni government. That's the delusion of a war criminal who lives on borrowed time. Netanyahu bragged that even Western and Arab coalitions couldn't do what Israel has done to Yemen, boasting about his so-called victories since the war with Iran. He loves to paint himself as the strongman who dismantles the so-called axis of resistance, but all he's really doing is making more enemies and digging the occupation's grave deeper. So the battle is far from over. Yemen has shown it is not backing down. Gaza's cries are louder than ever, and Netanyahu is hiding behind bunkers while pretending to be in control. Thank you for sticking with me through this breakdown. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. It's the only real support I ask of you. And don't leave without dropping a comment below. Let's hear your take on this madness, because your voice matters. God bless you.